In this video, we're going to be looking at the pen tool in Adobe InDesign, which behaves very much like the pen tool in Adobe Illustrator. So if you're working in that software, you want to learn how to use it. It's pretty much the same principles. One of the things that's going to be different is the Pathfinder, which is used for cutting and adding and merging shapes, essentially, is quite differently positioned in InDesign. And it's a little tricky to get to, a little more challenging to use, I think, but I'm going to show how that works in this software. So the pen tool, if you click and hold on it, underneath there's a few different options. All of these are actually accessible while just using the pen tool itself, and most of the time that's going to be what you use. So it's not a click and drag and draw tool. If you do that, you get this chaotic straight line that spins, and it's not even a line at all, it's a guideline. What you actually do with the pen tool is you lay down an anchor point and then you move to another point and another to create a shape. So for example, if I'm doing something like a polygonal shape, I can literally just click from point to point and then go back to my original point. You'll see that little circle appear next to the cursor telling me about to close this off as a shape. And if I do that, I have an actual shape that I can fill with color. I can place a photo into using it as an image frame, and I can even put text inside it, although it probably won't work very well. In fact, if I do type and fill with placeholder text, you can see it. It's a little chaotic. It's not great. So that's probably something you won't be doing very much with a shape that looks like this, but you can create your own custom shapes, and you can put text inside them, images inside them, etc. However, you can do a lot more with the pen tool than just do straight lines. If I click and create an anchor point, I can then click and hold, and I can make rounded shapes, such as this one. And also, start over from scratch there. If I click and pull on the first one, it will go ahead and move into a curved line. And I can make one of those go all the way around the shape. So there's a lot you can do with the pen tool. We also are going to look at creating a curved line, for example, and then what if I don't want it to go into another curve? What if I want it to then transition to a straight line? I can hover over that most recent anchor point that I placed here, and you'll see a little icon appear next to the cursor. And if I click that, it then goes back to polygonal lines. So I can convert that anchor point, which is what that little tool is called. Again, I said you could access most of these underneath the pen here while you're actively using the pen tool, and that's one of them, Convert Anchor Point Direction Tool. Let's look at actually making something useful here. I'll pull out a guide from the ruler on the side, and we'll make the same little spaceship that we do in Adobe Illustrator. And we're going to use the Pathfinder to put it together. So I'm going to make the body of this spaceship plane a little wider than I want to go, I think. And I'm going to make sure to close it off so that it is a whole shape. And I'm building half of it with the intention to build it and then copy paste flip. And then I have a symmetrical design. So I'm going to fill this with color, and this part's important as well. I'm going to remove the stroke from the outside edge. You can't work with shapes merging them together and cutting them apart unless you remove the stroke. That will make your life a lot easier, so just go ahead and do that. So it has a fill color, but it has no stroke around it. So I built that, and now I'm going to add in the wing. And I create that curve line that moves out. In fact, I think I'm going to make it a little bit longer. And then I want to go to a straight line, so I'll again hover over my most recent point, convert it, and then create my wing shape from that. Remove the stroke, fill it with color. Now I'm going to go to the bottom and add the tail of the plane. Same thing, overlapping it. And closing that off as a shape. And now that I have all these pieces together, I don't think this is my finest airplane. Let me let me adjust this a little bit. Give it a little more wingspan. Okay, I'll select all these. And this is where the merging comes together. You can select all of the shapes by clicking and dragging a box over them just on the canvas, or by selecting them and holding shift. Just keep holding shift and keep clicking them, and that will select all of them at the same time. So then from the object menu at the very top, I can go to the Pathfinder option, which is towards the bottom, and that's where you'll see these different forms of adjustment the Pathfinder will use. You can use add and subtract, intersect, exclude, overlap, minus, back. The most important thing here is add and subtract. So right now all I'm doing is merging these elements together. So I'll use the add option, and this becomes a single shape. Then I can copy and paste that, Command C, Command V, and then do Object, Transform, Flip Horizontal. That will flip it the opposite direction. I can put these together to create my plane. I'm going to line them up, and I'm going to let them overlap just a little bit, and then give it the same treatment, Object, Pathfinder, Add. So now I've got a single shape, making my spaceship plane. Delete the guide from behind it, and now I'm going to use the opposite form of the Pathfinder, which is the subtract. And what I'm going to do is use an ellipse and create a little oval here for the cockpit window. So I'll line that up in the middle. I'll let the smart guides do their work. I'll remove the stroke from it, extremely important. And I'm going to fill it with color just so I can see it a little better. And then this is where the hierarchy becomes particularly important, because I'm going to use this shape to cut through my shape beneath it and leave a hole of the same size. So in order for this to work, the shape that's doing the cutting, in this case the oval, has to be above the shape that it's cutting through. So that hierarchy is important. Occasionally you may find yourself having to go into your layers and to rearrange things to make sure that it's going to cut properly. So when I select these two shapes, I'll go up to the Object menu, Pathfinder, and then use the Subtract option. Now it has a gap there so that this one plane is a single shape, built with a combination of the pen tool and the shape tool. And then it can be duplicated. I can, if I really wanted to try, I can fill it with type, which obviously for complex shapes probably isn't going to look very good. And then also even I can use that shape and place an image inside it. Use it as an image frame. As long as I have it selected, I can use File and Place and then just pop an image in there, which in this case was a drawing of a pirate. So this is one thing that's really good about InDesign. Even though we mostly think of it as a software for assembling elements together, it's very possible to create entirely new designs using things like the Shape Tools, Pen Tool, and Pathfinder, and incorporate those into your work to make them unique. Although what I have built here is not exactly aesthetically top of the line, the principle remains, and that's what's important.